Authentically peculiar. Authentically peculiar. Authentically peculiar.
Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Welcome to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia, Season 3. I am so elated that we are going to be able to interview multiple guests as we are discussing the year of self. During this year, we're going to talk about financial wellness, mental wellness, emotional wellness, the journey to authenticity, overcoming trauma, and so much more. So stay tuned. Go ahead, like, subscribe, share, and even comment on Authentically Peculiar with Marcia on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, you can check it out on Apple, iTunes, and Spotify. Take good care. We'll see you. Welcome back to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Listen, y'all already know how I feel about clients, about guest clients. I'm still in the therapy break. But you know how I feel about guests and bringing them into the space. When Lanota and I ran into each other at the conference, our energies clicked and we both were like, okay, well, we need to talk. We need to, that kind of thing. But I am such an energy driven person that I know before I bring someone on, their energy and I have to jive. It has to be a connection for me. So today I'm introducing and bringing to the forefront Lanota. She is an LPC as well. She has a dual master level clinician. She received her initial master's in public administration.
Yes.
So we got to get the education, the money, and the insurance right. And then she went back and said, that's not enough. Let me go get my licensure as a therapist as well. It's so important for us to have more of us in that field so that we can bring you healthy conversation, healthy connections, validation. So that's what Lanota does. She also she has her GACE. If you don't know what that is, that means that she's a certified educator. She got her certification in school counseling. So she can help the kids get right.
Yes.
And then help the adults get right. And she also had prior work before working in mental health. She served as a department chair for Exceptional Education Department in DeKalb County. She is also currently a CPCS, meaning that she can train other counselors to be a counselor. She has spoken for Fulton County School District, the Nurses Association, and the list could go on. But better than that, y'all, she's a Virgo.
Yes.
So she understands my Virgoism. It is such a pleasure for your yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're so very
Thank you for having
welcome.
me.
So I know you're probably wondering, well, what are you all going to talk about today? Well, today we're going to be talking about how to get your spacing and empowerment within the workforce, especially for women.
Yes.
Especially for women of color.
Okay.
Because it's so important to remove some of that negative identity of you are a angry Black woman.
Yes.
Removing the stressors, right, that comes from being in corporate America, trying to climb that ladder, understand your footing, the imposter syndrome, which tell me what you think about the imposter syndrome. Now I'm gonna tell you what I think.
So I believe that when you come into corporate America, if you don't know who you are, you will become who everybody wants you to be.
Oh, that's rich.
And then there's also the struggle of being able to accept that you deserve where you're at. And so it's a dual-edged sword. A lot of times women, and especially women of color, are first or second generation persons in corporate America. And so you're taught from an early age to be seen and not heard.
Yes.
However, in corporate America, you're required to be heard
and
not
seen.
seen.
Oh, yes. For me, imposter syndrome, I believe, is a set of terminology used to keep people questioning their abilities. I believe that it was set in place so that people could grab hold to it and really not move in the strength of who they are, their skills. Oh, I can't do that because, I may not do it the way that they want me to do it, but you know it. You know how to do, you know how to be it. But I definitely love your explanation of an imposter syndrome. And I know that a lot of people wrestle with that. When you're talking about being in corporate America and removing that lens, how do you help others to really navigate what's your truth?
I think you asked the perfect question. Having people to be honest about what their truth is. Most people know to a certain extent. They just don't want to say.
That's true. Why do you think that is, though?
Because then I own it.
Hadn't thought about it like that. I own whatever it is
that I said. And then I have to either do something about it or accept it for what it is.
That's huge.
Do you find that as a challenge for you with people that you encounter?
So I have a really good friend that calls me the cut and cure.
Okay.
She often says you either gonna love Marcia or you not. There's no gray in between. And when she called me cut and cure, it's because I have a way of really finding out what your strengths are and building you. But if you're afraid of the truth of being built, you'll go back and tell everybody that I'm mean. You'll go back and tell everybody that I'm this, and this. So it doesn't bother me, what their perspective is about me. And oftentimes when I meet one-on-one, this is when I was in leadership for the federal government, people would say, you're not what they're saying. I was like, shh, don't tell them. Because most of the people that's doing the talking hadn't interacted with me, so they don't know me. So I have never been at a place where imposter syndrome challenged me. And here's another reason why. When I was a senior in high school, I had a guidance counselor that told me I wasn't smart enough to go to college. Told me, you need to just go find you some kind of factory job. Not in this life. And it hurt, but all that did was strengthen me to move on. What I'm hearing you say is a lot of people will enter into corporate America and they'll hear that, not own it, and then let somebody else define them.
Absolutely.
How do you help them?
For me, it becomes working with persons on accepting who they are. And so a prime example is the experience that you gave when you were working in corporate America. You never once made a mission to prove who you were because you knew who you were.
That's the part.
But if you don't know who you are, you will find yourself either A, fighting yourself, or B, fighting others to prove their truth of you.
To prove their truth of you. That's like going through childhood and everybody saying, you the bad kid, you this and you that, and you're constantly trying to prove that you're not. That's good, Lanota. That's good. Because when you break it down like that, question for the audience, how do you know you? How well do you know you? And have you just kind of caved in to what everybody has said that you are, that they defined you? Lanota said, if you don't know who you are, somebody else going to define you.
Absolutely. And you have to be honest with yourself, right? I will give a real life perfect example. I am taking swim classes right now.
Okay.
I finally came to terms with I need to get over this fear of the water. And so being comfortable enough, even as an adult, to adjust and do things
Yeah.
to grow yourself.
Mhm.
But if I'm not comfortable with myself, I can't grow myself.
Right.
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 And so when you ask people who they are, you have to have a boldness to be able to say truly
Mhm.
not only what I have, but also what I lack, and who you are is not defined by what you have.
That part. Because when you think about it, I know people with multiple degrees and still have very low self-esteem, still have very low self-belief. Why do you think that is?
No connection.
Connection
So
with.
connection with self. So for example,
Mm, mhm.
I find I get tickled
Mhm.
when I ask people who they are.
Mhm. And they
In
start getting
sessions,
nervous.
no, they will start saying, "Well, I'm a member of this sorority or fraternity.
Yeah, they give you the labels.
I have my doctorate.
Mhm.
I work at such and such a place.
Mhm.
I, drive such and such a car." So they will label the external attributes of what they have versus I am a joy giver. I
Mm.
am a
Mhm.
person that likes to laugh.
Right. Right.
Um, I enjoy cooking, right?
Yeah.
Um, I am a person that is a creative.
Mhm.
Or not. I'm not always.
Or you'll hear people say, "I love to see other people happy." Well, what does that have to do with you? You can't
Right.
control their happiness.
Not at all.
Because I'll usually say, "Tell me 5 things about you that has nothing to do with anybody else. Let's see how you define you." And they struggle.
Oh, yeah. And in corporate America, when I would interview people sometimes, and I would say, "Tell me why we should hire you,"
Mm.
and they would go through this whole barrage of things that had nothing to do with themselves. And part of it is taught almost to people.
It is.
Um, because some people see confidence as arrogance,
Mm-hmm.
and they're two different things.
Absolutely. One of the things that I share with people is Western civilization bamboozled us. They taught us that it was a crime and offensive if we thought about ourselves first, if we took care of ourselves first. And the reason why, this is Marcia's perspective, I believe that they taught that lesson was to keep you shell shocked from growing into yourself. Well, I can't think about me. If I think about me, I'm selfish.
Crazy thing is, when you really master who you are, watch out, world.
Yes.
Watch out.
Because once you become confident in who you are, it doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't matter what other people feel. Your confidence is not a direct reflection on them. It's a direct reflection on you.
Right. And I do want to clarify, it doesn't mean that you don't care about
That
what
part.
other people think and feel, right?
Mhm.
Confidence does not equate to cockiness.
I
It
agree.
does not equate to arrogance. It simply says that I understand who and what I am.
Yeah. And the way I look at arrogance is individuals who don't know who they are, and the only thing they have going for them is bragging about what they got,
Right.
what they achieved. What else there is there to you? If we take all of those labels away, especially when you think about corporate America, if I take all of this stuff away from you, who are you? What do you actually bring to the table?
For a lot of people, they don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes the struggle. And honestly, it becomes a struggle because a lot of times people don't know that, and they don't feel like they have a safe space to say they don't know that. So it's so necessary what we do, and it's so vital to the community because we are able to walk through the process with people without a level of judgment. And without a level of condemnation.
So creating that safe space where people can express their vulnerability, their concerns of not knowing, but then learning who they are so that they can go back in the world and actually achieve what they were purposed to achieve.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
But it starts with where I talked about with swimming. You gotta want to learn it.
You gotta want to learn it, and you gotta know. You gotta give yourself permission to want to learn it. Like you had to give yourself permission to say it's not too late to learn how to swim.
Absolutely.
How important is that level of permission, that self-permission?
It is either the builder or the destroyer of everything you want to do in life. Because, yeah, I mean, it's so much to that, right?
Yeah.
It's so much to that, even showing up as a person and giving yourself permission to be yourself.
Yeah.
Because the way the world is designed, a lot of times it's not welcoming of you being you.
Right.
It wants you to be who it wants you to be. And so there's a boldness that comes with that and a level of comfortability.
Yeah.
To say, regardless to how this thing works out, I'm not going to shortchange.
That's good. That's good. You know, you talked about that level of comfortability. That takes actually getting to know you. Very early in our lives, especially for women, we are conditioned to not have a voice. We are conditioned, like you said, to be seen and not heard, or heard a little bit in corporate America because you can't be too aggressive, right? And then not seen. You have to actually go in and recondition. It's almost like performing brain surgery.
My favorite type of therapy is cognitive therapy. And cognitive therapy is just this belief or looking at the thinking and the thought process. Because oftentimes what's driven or what drives behavior is the thought process. So I have a saying, I need to copyright it, but I have this saying that if you can change your thoughts, you can change your mind. If you can change your mind, you can change your life.
That's so ironic. We already talked about our similarities, so here's my perspective. If you change your mouth, you change your heart. If you change your heart, you change your head. If you change your head, you change your beliefs and your actions. Same thing.
Same thing, just a different way.
Yeah.
Just a different way. The same concept.
That's amazing to me.
That is all here.
It's all in what do I believe so that I can change my belief and do something different.
Absolutely.
That's empowering. That's
It's
one of the
free.
things you do. Yeah.
It's
like
totally
the whole set of different handcuffs have dropped off. At least we hope that they're dropping off of you, because when you begin to free here, you can free here. Because in here is where you allow that stirring to come. What are they going to think about me? Can I belong? Can I fit in? Or how are they going to see me? So these two are constantly in a battle.
They're always in a struggle.
Always struggling, because here wants you to believe what everybody else has been saying. Here may branch out and say, I really want to believe in me, but I don't know if I can. So you got to get them together.
The boldness. That's
yeah.
what I was talking about. It takes a boldness. You know, it takes a boldness to stand in a room and stand firm on what it is that you believe. And to be okay with it.
And to be okay with it. And the truth is, and I shared this with the client before we got ready to record tonight, I said, as an athlete, however I showed up in practice is how I showed up during the game. You have to decide, when I show up in an empowered state of existence, in a bold state of existence, when I'm practicing, when I'm alone, when I'm with family, I'm going to show up. So when I actually have to enter into those spaces, I'm going to show up the same way.
Absolutely.
When I was at the LPCA conference, excuse me, there was a gentleman that was, it seemed like every session I went to, he was following me around, and he's like, your attitude doesn't change. No, because I don't put on masks. I'm gonna be Marcia day in and day out.
And then you don't have to remember to be somebody else.
That
I always tell people,
part.
be yourself so that you don't have to remember to be someone else.
Now that's different from code switching, you all. Code switching is turning on a different set of understood language to get your point across, which is very different from you showing up as yourself. Because for me, my vocabulary is vast. So
Right.
however I need to be in the midst of whomever, the message is gonna come. So if I'm hanging out with some kids and I've already learned some lingo, that's where I'm gonna be. But my message is gonna be the same.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
Well, you said code switching. That's a touchy subject.
Tell me about it. Let's talk about it.
Because you have to also always remain who you are, like you said.
That part.
And so, unfortunately, some people find themselves splitting. And so I'm this one person at work, and I'm this one person at home, this one person somewhere else. And it almost can create a sense of misery for people because they're never fully themselves, right? And so there's adjustments that take place naturally. If I'm working with a child, I am not going to use the same vocabulary
Correct.
that I would use if I'm working with an adult because the kid's just not going to understand it,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Even if it's an advanced kid, some of the connections are going to be different because their experiences are different. However, if I am pretending to be a whole different person,
Right.
that's when that intrapersonal, intrapersonal challenges can arise.
Yeah, because the thing is if you're constantly wearing a mask, how do you know your truth?
And so I like to say, I like to say communication adjustment.
I like
Because
that.
when I think of code switching, I think of the stereotypes of I need to be extremely proper in this setting, and I'm be real down in this setting.
Right.
No, I'm going to always be me. There's always going to be the standard of who I am.
I like that information or communication adjustment. I'm gonna start using that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna start using that. I like that. I definitely like that. That thing resonated in my soul because that is exactly what it is.
And if you look at, unfortunately, prior generations, for a lot of cultures, be it Asian cultures, be it Hispanic cultures, be it African American cultures, people have that term code switching was taught down through years, and it can almost create a sense of self rejection.
It can.
For persons, since I always talk to people about, no, you want to be you, right? And you want to show up as yourself in the most,
authentic way,
for the environment that you're in. And so what I mean by that, if I'm going to the beach, I'm not going to show up to the beach in a three-piece suit.
That part. And that breaks it down so well. I remember growing up, and my mother would not allow us to speak slang. We had to speak proper English, if there's such a thing in America. But we had to be phonetically and grammatically correct growing up. And we would often hear, you talk like a white person.
I don't even understand what that means.
I still don't, and I'm 55, almost 56. I still don't know what that means, because that was the way that our mother had us to communicate, right? And so now when we talk to individuals, I'm definitely going to borrow your terminology and give you credit for it on the communication adjustment, because we are having to adjust to the environment. No different than our livelihood. Like you said, if I'm going to the beach, I'm not going to have on a three-piece suit.
Not at all.
I'm actually going to adjust. And even in corporations, how can you help them to understand the power of adjustment without demeaning who they are?
I want to say really clearly, and I'm going to look in the camera.
Do that.
There is no need to sell yourself out. You can show up as yourself and still get the job done.
Yes.
Period.
No reason to cut you off, to sell yourself short, or put you on the auction block, or anybody else. Because I know that it can be very competitive in the corporate world, but I can tell you this, you never have to attempt to outshine somebody else, because your light is going to shine the way that it's supposed to. And I think that's a message that we don't get in corporate America.
The reality is that there is no competition for you, because you are you.
But here's the truth. Or from my perspective, your only competition is you.
That's what I mean. There's no external
Because all these other people,
they can never be you.
They can't be you because, one, they're not named you. Two, they hadn't lived your life. They may have some similarities, hadn't lived your life. Three, they don't know what you've gone through. And contrary to popular belief, just how somebody come in and they got on labeled clothes and their hair intact and their body in shape, that doesn't always make happy.
And I think that if the work is always on fine-tuning yourself, that you don't chase joy in the exterior, right?
Yeah.
And I can give a prime example of that. I recently had another friend in the therapy world, and she was doing an event, and she asked if I would come and support her. And I did that, and someone said, well, why would you do that? You're both therapists. And I said,
never understood that.
Because there's not a competition.
Say that again. For all the therapists, you can share other therapists' posts. You can attend their events. You can give them unconditional support. It's not going to upend what you got going on in your purpose.
No. And we can be collaborative.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm comfortable in me and what I bring to the table and what my light is.
Yeah.
And I can also have that and, give you your flowers and say, you do awesome presentations and you do awesome work in the community and you're a broad-based and very multifaceted woman and a great therapist. Doesn't take anything
Does
away.
not diminish your light one iota. Because typically, I can just tell you about Marcia. I'm going to usually throw out a whole barrage of compliments first. I think I sent you an email back today, and I said, yo, I need a bigger bio than this because I know the greatness in you.
Right.
Your response takes one to know one. Well, the truth is did that cost me anything? Absolutely not. Here's the truth. If you see someone doing something, operating in a gift that you appreciate, acknowledge it. It's not going to take away from you.
But I think people are so afraid.
Why do you think that?
They're afraid because you're always taught for a lot of people that there's only one seat.
Child, listen.
There's only one seat, or, if you compliment her, and even some people don't trust compliments because they've never received them. That's
Exactly.
the other piece, right?
Exactly.
What she want from me?
Exactly.
That's it. I just wanted to compliment you.
And for me, I'm like Shirley Chisholm, baby. You don't have a seat at the table, I'm bringing me one. Because here's the reality. And I've had therapists to stop engaging and interacting with me, especially after I got this space and clientele blowing up and all that kind of stuff. And I kept saying, what did I do? And then I had to stop myself. You can't stop people in their insecurities. You keep doing what you were purposed to do. Those that are supposed to draw near, they will.
Not
because that light,
there
right,
for the whole ride.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that you failed. Unfortunately, I read this story about a young man recently, and I don't know why it popped up, where he graduated from high school. I don't know if you saw that. There? No, he went back to his old neighborhood the day of his graduation, and that was his last day.
Wow.
And so sometimes we're trying to force what was when we're going somewhere different.
Ooh, say that one more time.
And so being comfortable in your growth, even in corporate America, being comfortable in your growth, not getting caught up when people say, oh, you think you're better than me now that you have this position, or now that you have this office, because who's for you will be for you. And they will celebrate you. I remember when I got my licensure, someone that I celebrated all the time. Day that I got my licensure, I was so excited. And they were supposed to celebrate with me, and it did not happen.
Wow.
And I want to throw this in here: be willing to celebrate yourself.
That
I still celebrate it.
Listen, because a lot of people, I don't think they understand the rigors of us getting licensed and what it takes, and all of the hours that we give up for free, and our requirements, and the potential of malpractice. And in this field specifically, and I really, if there's anyone listening that wants to be a therapist, please don't let this deter you. There are some therapists that I believe operate in imposter syndrome, so they are afraid to help other people or support other people. But it's more of us willing to support, because it's not always about how much money I can get out of you. I give a lot of information away free because it's just knowledge, right? I'm gonna get paid for what I do because God always worked that out for me. But you can't be afraid to share information, because here's what I know. I've been given a gift in wisdom. Lanota's been given a gift in wisdom. We may come together, we may collab, but we still have a path. And our path is going to be lighted up by the light within us, not us dimming somebody else's light.
You get nothing out of
nothing.
that.
Anxiety.
Nothing out of that.
Yeah.
And maybe a little depression too, because it makes it real sad to have to constantly navigate mess.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the part. I mean, even, and I really want you all to hear this in corporate America. It is not your job to make people befriend you. It's not your job to make people appreciate your skills. When you befriend yourself and when you appreciate your skills, it's going to do all the talking that you need.
And your work will speak.
It will.
There's a balance, because some people are taught to be very quiet and timid, and some people are taught to be loud.
Right. Don't be loud and wrong, though. Don't be loud and wrong, please.
I go, yikes. I would say you got one or two options. You could be loud or wrong.
Right.
Don't be
loud can't be both.
And wrong. You cannot
can't be both
at all. Like, just take the pause and just kind of like if you're singing in choir and you don't know the note, just lay low until you catch it. You catch it. But no, just showing up and not letting people shift or change you. I remember I was working in a certain position and someone said, why are you continuing to be kind to that person when they're not kind to anybody? And my response was, I'm not going to reconfigure who I am in order to be who they are, right? Exactly. And so basic principle my mom said, when you try to throw dirt on people, you have to stick your hands in mud, and so your hand too gets dirty. Try to keep your hands clean.
Because the truth is I don't encounter anyone that I have to be nasty with.
Right.
Because I'm the queen of walk away. I'm going to say what I need to say. I'm going to express what I need to express in the moment. I'm going to deliver it in a manner that my hopes is that you understand. I'll make sure that you understand. And then I'm going to go about my business.
And to your point, you're seeking the understanding. You're still communicating. You're not walking by the person every day with a bad attitude. You're not slamming doors. You're not trying to
in the face of my enemy. Hey, how you doing? Okay, and keep right on going.
Because that's not my work anyway.
Not my energy.
No, my work is to cultivate.
And the thing about it is I would say in corporate America and in your life in general, protect your energy. protect your peace. Your happiness is not in the hands of other people, it's in your hands. One of the things, and I know people talk about Will and Jada a lot of times, but when he made that video and wrote in his book, I had to learn it wasn't my responsibility to make her happy. She had to have it, and then I could add on to it my portion, but it wasn't my responsibility to lay the foundation.
Well, and unfortunately, I think for a lot of people, they see certain things as their responsibility because other people have placed
Told
that
them.
mantle on them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, one of the things that we talk about from a therapeutic perspective is AAA.
Mm-hmm.
And AAA stands for awareness, acceptance, and then action.
Mm-hmm.
You first have to be aware that people have placed this mantle on you,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm the oldest child, so that means I have to solve everything in the family, or I'm the vice president of this company, so I'm hashtag team no sleep. Team no sleep needs to end. That's not great for anybody.
So does multitasking. Biggest enemy in my idea, because one, it really causes you to remap your brain waves with having to do 5 things at one time, and then you don't get anything done.
Or you get them all done and they're not done well. Or even if they're done well, they're not done at their best capacity. So I took a whole training on that on multitasking, which was amazing. And what they talked about was how nothing is getting 100% of your brain power. And
Period.
so at the end of the day, even if you've done everything, you've not done anything at 100% proven fact, because nothing is getting 100% of your brain power. So being intentional about doing one thing at a time and being present in the present.
Being present in the present. I often tell my clients, listen, I recognize that there are some daily functions that you have to do, such as go to work, perform certain things. Outside of that, you get 1 to 2 tasks that you're going to work on to complete. You complete them one at a time. That means you can't move to the second one until the first one is complete. Because I've moved out of their way that catch net of excuses. Because your goal is to complete that first task. Outside, listen, life isn't going to stop. We're not going to stop having to go to work. We're not going to stop having to take care of our families, take care of ourselves, and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to yourself, what's the one task that you need to complete today?
And it's weird because I actually do that for my personal life. And so, as a therapist, I encourage, if there are other therapists that are listening to this podcast, very important for us to put into practice the things that we're encouraging others to do. And so I do, by the end of the night, I want to do these couple of things. And I just give myself the space to do it. From a corporate perspective, accepting that you're not the corporation.
Say that one more time.
From a corporate perspective, it's accepting that you're not the corporation. A lot of corporate clients come in for burnout because they have placed the burden of this whole thing on their back.
If I don't show up for work, things are going to fail.
Right.
But corporations have shown us you can die at your desk. They're going to call EMS and get you out of there. They're going to give it about 5 days, and then they're going to clean your stuff, sanitize it, and be ready to hire the next employee. You are not the corporation.
No, you're just contributing your gifts.
Yeah.
And if you don't honor your gifts, who will?
Period.
But
if you don't know your gifts, how can you honor them? And that's where I think a lot of people struggle, because they think education is the guide to their gifts, but not necessarily, because there's a lot of people that don't have higher education degrees that are operating fully in their gifts.
And I also think that it's becoming comfortable with saying no thank you. I have a friend who laughs at me. She says, your no thank you game can be real strong sometimes. And it's not because I am in a constant state of rejection. It's exactly the opposite.
Right.
I'm in a constant state of acceptance of what is for me.
What is for me. I tell people, and I said to somebody, I should have patented this years ago when I started saying it. No is an absolute complete sentence. You have a right to say yes or no. Anyone that tries to mentally manipulate you to get you to say yes when you don't want to say no, that's a higher reason to say no. Because the moment that you give in to the mental manipulation, they're coming back again.
And you will find yourself slowly, literally replacing yourself with the person that they want you to be. So,
Yeah.
for example, and working in corporate, when I worked in corporate, you would sometimes have meetings, and the meetings would go all day, and then after the meetings, there will always be dinner, which was just more meetings because you talked about business. And I remember one day in particular, they were like, well, "Are you going to dinner tonight?" I was like, "No, no, thank you." And they were like, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going back to my room to rest." And someone said, "Well, the dinner is free." That's fine.
That was an insult, actually.
Yes, that's fine.
That was like a low key insult, like
Well,
you know,
yeah.
like you had a per diem or something.
Yeah, we all have a per diem, so we all had an Amex.
Right.
But I think they were saying it wasn't coming out of my Amex; it was coming out of the person, because in corporate, of course, the person who has the biggest position picks up the tab.
Right. Right.
And so that they were pretty much saying, well, you go and you're going to be able to get whatever you want because it's not coming out of your per diem.
Can you imagine having to live in the mindset of attending things that you don't want to attend just so that you can say you had this one little thing that you probably could have done for yourself? That's a bad place to be.
And the reality is sometimes you have to go to certain things.
Yeah.
And so when you do have to go, it becomes how you show up. And so, for example, if it's I'll say if it's I'll use a golf tournament, for example, where they say, okay, nobody's going to have to go, we want everybody to go to the golf tournament. Instead of work this day, we need everybody present, on your corporate job because we're all going to represent the company this day. If you go face frown, moaning and groaning, that does not serve you well either. So even if you showing up understanding that, this is temporal for the day can help to shift and design your day versus showing up in a space that, is going to take your day further down, right? So there are some things that are controllable and there are some things, and even in that instance, I always tell people, you always have control.
Always have
because
control.
You can choose not to go. Now that means you got to take whatever comes with that. However, you still do have control. Nobody's hostage anybody.
And I want to break your story down to just 3 words. Don't do disservice to yourself. When you are in situations that you don't want to be in or you feel forced to be in, find a statement of gratitude to serve you. You may be going for their job, but if you can tap into a level of gratitude, that'll change your whole mindset.
But you have to first know what you have to be grateful for. We live in a world of Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and this weekend there's 32 different sites that someone listed.
I can't even imagine. I can't.
Conceptually, gratitude is not linked to what you have.
Right.
It's linked to just a certain perception of peace, just your presence.
That's the gratitude.
Earth. Just peace for your presence on this earth. And so people struggle with gratitude because it's like, for me, I'm grateful for my practice, right? I have a gratitude for that, right? But there are people who will lack that gratitude until, like you, they have a building. They're not satisfied with just having a practice because, and it doesn't mean that I don't want to grow, because the two can align. I have things that I still want to accomplish, and I'm also grateful for what I have done.
Right. what I tend to tell people is learn how to, you said at the end of the night, I'm doing a checklist and did I accomplish this? Also, at the end of the night, start doing a checklist or when you wake up in the morning, what am I grateful for? That I make it about me. For Marcia, one of my first gratitudes is I'm thankful that I'm breathing because I'm asthmatic and to have a day where there's no asthma flare up. Always grateful. I'm grateful even if I have a flare up and it's taken care of. Life is going to throw you situations, right? That is going to make you question, well, am I okay? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? When your truth is, once you express levels of gratitude, that peace warms all of who you are, and you're no longer looking for the external validation. When you can get to that point where external validation isn't the thing that you're trying to get, the peace that surpasses all understanding, baby, will rock your world. You said something earlier. You said, when you know you, you simply know you. And that's the peace that you have to operate in. That's the same peace you've got to take into corporate America. You've got to take it into.
But you don't have to.
Well,
I
you're
always
right.
have to remind myself.
You're right.
You don't have to. You got
You
a
can
choice.
you can deal with the
You got a
consequences.
choice.
I'm like this. Life and death is in the power of the tongue, but I encourage you to speak life.
Yes.
I'm gonna encourage you to take the good with you, because what you're going to find is you'll have to come see one of us, because that anxiety will become so overwhelming. Levels of depression, low self-esteem, and we really are. I mean, we're not trying to run ourselves out of business, but our truth is we really want to see more people, specifically women in the workforce, more consumed with who they are, not in an arrogant way, but in a healthy way, so that the peace that they deserve is right there.
And I think part of that will come from people really seeking to understand themselves, right? And so, um, stopping the chase. And so, and what I mean by that is people chasing a title, people chasing, to use the lingo, people say, I'm chasing a bag, I'm chasing this money, right? I'm chasing this position, I'm chasing a certain car.
Yeah.
And so you're constantly in a state of unrest because you're seeking things. And the reality is that, yes, you do need to do work. And yes, there are certain things that are required to move from transition to transition. And the other reality is that if I'm aligned with what I'm supposed to be doing, I don't have to chase what belongs to me.
Listen, your blessings will come pressed down, shaken up, and running over.
You don't have to chase it.
I don't chase.
Things that you chase, the reality is, if you're chasing something, that means that whatever that is, it's running
you.
away from you.
That's good.
It's
I was saying chasing you because you constantly running away. I like that.
From you. Right? And so there's this constant, if I'm going to get you,
right.
I'm constantly, and that means that the thing is constantly moving.
That's
right?
good, Lanota.
But whatever is mine is going to be in alignment with me.
Yeah. And you ain't got to chase it.
And I don't have to chase it. And I don't have to be distracted by what somebody else got, because I do understand that mine will
come to you. Yes.
I just need to be positioned.
Need to be positioned and prepared. We could talk all night.
Yes.
But you got such a long drive back home. I just want to say thank you for, one, sacrificing Atlanta traffic to get here. Two, for your yes. And three, for being such a beautiful spirit that we've crossed each other's path. I never take it for granted how I'm aligned with the people I'm supposed to be aligned with. So thank you so much. What would be your last words of encouragement to the audience?
last words for me would be just to encourage everyone watching to know that everything that you desire is inside of you.
Oof.
Um, and
Y'all, she sound like me, right?
it's just the willingness um, and the fortitude and the determination to get what is inside.
Yeah, that's so good. Listen, y'all. I want you all to really, really, really play this episode multiple times because a lot of gems have come out of it. Get your pen and paper, write it down, start writing the vision of you for you, writing that changed narrative, recognizing you no longer have to own what other people said about you so that you could be your best you. Discuss that. I'm going to always encourage you, find a therapist, talk with a therapist, someone who's willing to help you get through and unearth those things that created a rough foundation for you so that you can really begin to operate in your true authentic self. So until next time, and you'll be able to find the notes' contact information at the end of the episode. But until next time, thank you for walking and hanging out with us at Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Y'all throw us some comments so that we can come out here and answer some questions. I promise you, there is not a comment or question that's too small. If we can encourage you, we will. If we don't know, we'll find out and get you to the right people. Because here's our truth. Just because we're Virgos, we don't have to know it all.
No, we just need to know who to go to.
That's it. We just need to know how to refer you. So take it easy. Look out for future episodes of Authentically Peculiar with Marcia, and we will see you real soon.